You're standing in your backyard on a beautiful spring morning, admiring your carefully planted garden. The flowers are blooming, the grass is lush, and everything looks perfect. You reach down to pull a weed near your hostas when suddenly you freeze. There, coiled beneath the broad leaves, is a snake. Your heart races as you step back slowly, wondering how it got there and why it chose your garden. Here's what most people don't realize. That snake didn't just wander in by accident. Your garden is sending out signals, creating conditions that snakes find irresistible. Certain plants act like welcome signs, offering everything a snake needs to feel at home. Shelter from the sun, moisture, hiding spots, and, most importantly, easy access to food. You might think you're just growing beautiful plants, but to a snake, you've built the perfect habitat. Today we're going to look at 7 common plants that can turn your peaceful yard into snake territory. This isn't about panic or tearing out your entire garden. It's about understanding what attracts these creatures so you can make smarter choices about what you plant and where you plant it. First on the list, tall ornamental grasses. Walk through any garden center, and you'll see them everywhere. Pampas grass with its giant feathery plumes, fountain grass swaying gracefully in the breeze, maiden grass adding that elegant, natural look. Landscape designers love these plants because they add movement, texture, and year-round interest. They're perfect for creating privacy screens, filling empty spaces, and softening hard edges around patios and walkways. But look at these grasses from a snake's perspective. What you see as decorative landscaping, they see as prime real estate. These grasses grow in thick, dense clumps. The blades overlap and intertwine, creating layers upon layers of coverage. At the base where the grass meets the soil, there's a whole hidden world. It's dark down there, cool, protected from the sun and wind. The thick growth creates its own microclimate. During hot summer days when the temperature climbs and the sun beats down, the interior of these grass clumps stays remarkably cool. Snakes, being cold-blooded, need to regulate their body temperature constantly. They can't sweat or pant like mammals. They have to physically move between warm and cool areas. A dense clump of ornamental grass offers the perfect cooling station. They can slip inside, completely invisible from the outside, and wait out the heat of the day in comfort. There's another benefit these grasses provide: moisture. Morning dew collects on the long blades and drips down to the base. After a rain, water pools in the dense growth. While the rest of your yard dries out quickly in the sun, these protected areas stay damp for hours or even days. For a snake, this means hydration without having to venture out into the open. Then there's the concealment factor. A snake can move through ornamental grasses like a highway system, completely hidden from view. You could be standing 3 feet away and never see them. Even large snakes 3 or 4 feet long can navigate through these grasses without making a sound or disturbing a single blade. They're masters at using this type of cover. And wherever you have dense vegetation at ground level, you attract small animals. Mice love to burrow at the base of ornamental grasses. Voles create tunnel networks through the root systems. These rodents feel safe in the thick growth, protected from hawks and other predators. But they're not protected from snakes. Snakes are ambush hunters. They move into areas where prey is abundant and wait. Your decorative grass becomes their hunting blind. Homeowners often have no idea snakes are living in their ornamental grasses until they go to trim them back in late fall or early spring. They reach in with the pruning shears and suddenly, something moves. Fast. That's when they realize these beautiful landscape plants have been housing unexpected guests for months. Second, dense shrubs planted close together. Think about the classic foundation plantings around most homes. Boxwoods lined up in neat rows, junipers hugging the base of the house, privet hedges marking property lines, yew shrubs flanking the front door. These evergreen shrubs are landscaping staples. They're tough, they stay green year-round. They're easy to maintain with a quick trim a few times a year, and they add instant curb appeal, but step back and look at what's happening beneath all that foliage. These shrubs, especially when planted in tight rows or allowed to grow together, create perfect snake habitat. The branches grow so densely that sunlight rarely penetrates to the ground. Underneath, it's perpetually shaded, sometimes almost dark even at noon on a sunny day. The soil stays cool and often damp because it's protected from direct sun and wind. For snakes, these conditions are ideal. They can slip under the lower branches and find immediate shelter. The temperature is stable, no extreme heat, no sudden cold snaps. It's like climate-controlled housing. After a rain, water drips from the branches and soaks into the protected soil beneath. This creates humid pockets that help snakes avoid dehydration, especially during dry spells. These shrubs also attract the exact prey snakes are looking for. Small rodents build nests under dense shrubs because they feel protected. Insects thrive in the moist, dark environment beneath the branches. Slugs, beetles, crickets, all the things that attract mice and voles. And once you have rodents, you have everything a snake needs for long-term residence. The real problem with dense shrubs is visibility, or rather the lack of it. You can walk right past these plantings every single day and never know there's a snake living underneath. They're completely hidden. Many people only discover them when they're doing yard work. They reach under a shrub to pull weeds or spread mulch, and their hand comes within inches of a coiled snake. Or they're trimming the shrubs and a branch gets caught. When they pull it free, a snake emerges from the depths of the plant, startling everyone involved. The thicker and more overgrown your shrubs are, the more attractive they become. Old, mature shrubs that haven't been properly pruned create cavern-like spaces underneath. To a snake, this isn't just shelter, it's a permanent home. Third, ground covers, especially ivy and vining plants. If you've ever tried to get rid of English ivy, you know how aggressively it grows. It spreads across the ground in thick mats, sending out runners in every direction, climbing walls, trees, anything it can attach to. Other ground covers like periwinkle, creeping jenny, pachysandra, and sweet potato vine behave similarly. They're sold as low-maintenance solutions for areas where grass won't grow, slopes that are hard to mow, shady spots under trees. From a landscaping perspective, they work beautifully. They fill in bare spots, prevent erosion, and create that lush green carpet effect. But from a snake's perspective, ground covers are paradise. These plants grow in such dense layers that they create a tunnel network at ground level. Imagine a miniature jungle gym, with vines crisscrossing over each other, leaves stacking on top of leaves, creating a three-dimensional maze just above the soil. Snakes can move through this maze completely concealed. The thick vegetation blocks any view from above. Even if you're standing directly over an area covered in ivy, you won't see what's underneath unless you physically lift the vines. And what's underneath is everything a snake wants. Constant shade that keeps the ground cool, moisture trapped between the layers of foliage, protected pathways for hunting, and an abundance of prey. Ground covers attract insects by the thousands. The damp, dark conditions are perfect for slugs, snails, beetles, and worms. These insects attract larger prey like mice, voles, and shrews. These small mammals use the ground cover as highways, moving from one area to another while staying hidden from aerial predators like hawks and owls. But they're not hidden from snakes. Snakes hunt by scent and heat, and they're perfectly adapted to navigate through dense vegetation. What makes ground covers particularly problematic is how quickly they spread. You might plant a small patch to cover a bare spot near your foundation. Within a year or two, that small patch has expanded across a huge area. What started as a decorative accent has become a sprawling network of potential snake habitat. And because these plants grow so thick and fast, they're rarely disturbed. You're not walking through them, you're not pulling weeds from them. You're mostly just letting them do their thing. For a snake, that means security. No sudden disturbances, no threats, just a safe, stable environment. Many people don't realize they have snakes living in their ground cover until they start a landscaping project. They decide to rip out that old ivy or cut back the periwinkle, and as they start pulling vines, snakes appear. Sometimes multiple snakes, because ground covers can support several individuals in a relatively small area. Fourth, thick layers of mulch combined with moisture-loving plants. Walk through any well-maintained garden, and you'll see mulch everywhere. It's considered essential for good gardening. Mulch conserves moisture, suppresses weeds, regulates soil temperature, and eventually breaks down to improve soil quality. Most gardeners apply it generously, layering it 3, 4, sometimes 6 inches deep around their plants. But here's what happens when you combine deep mulch with certain plants. You create a hidden world that's invisible from the surface. Bark mulch, especially the shredded kind, forms air pockets as it settles. These pockets create tunnels and cavities. The mulch stays consistently moist because it absorbs water and protects the soil from direct sun. Underneath, the soil becomes soft, damp, and cool. Now add plants like hostas, ferns, hydrangeas, astilbe, or coral bells. These are shade plants with large leaves that create even more coverage. The combination is deadly effective at attracting snakes. The mulch provides the structure, the plants provide additional shade and moisture, and together they create a layered habitat. Snakes can burrow into the mulch, hide under the plant leaves, and move between different areas of the garden without ever being exposed. The situation gets worse if you have other elements nearby. Stacks of firewood, old lumber, piles of leaves, fallen logs. These are all common in yards, and they're all snake magnets. Each piece of wood or debris creates additional hiding spots. Rodents nest in these areas because they're protected and offer good insulation. Insects breed in decaying wood and damp leaf litter. The entire setup becomes a self-sustaining ecosystem, and snakes are the top predators. Most people have no idea this is happening in their gardens. The mulch looks neat and clean from above. The plants look healthy and well-maintained. Everything appears normal until someone reaches down to divide a hosta or move some mulch, and suddenly they're face to face with a snake that's been living there comfortably for who knows how long. The key problem is that organic mulch, especially wood-based mulch, is comfortable for snakes to move through. It's soft, it holds moisture, and it provides excellent cover. Unlike gravel or stone, which is hard, unstable, and uncomfortable for snakes to cross, mulch welcomes them. Every time you refresh your mulch beds, you're potentially making your garden more inviting. Fifth, plants that grow around water features. There's something magical about having water in your garden. A small pond with lily pads, a fountain surrounded by greenery, a rain garden filled with moisture-loving plants. These features add beauty, attract wildlife, and create peaceful focal points. But water features are also powerful snake attractors, and the plants you choose to surround them make a huge difference. Anywhere you have standing water or consistently wet soil, you create a food chain. Water attracts insects. Insects attract frogs and toads. Frogs attract larger predators, including snakes. If your water feature is surrounded by plants like elephant ears, cattails, cannas, taro, or water lilies, you're building the perfect snake environment. These plants have a few things in common. They all have large, broad leaves that create significant shade. They all thrive in wet, boggy soil. And they all grow thick and dense, especially around the edges of ponds and streams. Under their canopy, the ground stays perpetually damp and cool. Even during the hottest summer days, the soil beneath an elephant ear plant remains moist and comfortable. For snakes, these areas offer everything. There's water for hydration, readily available prey in the form of frogs and insects, and excellent cover from the large leaves. Pond edges are particularly attractive because they're transition zones. Snakes can move between the water and dry land easily, hunting both aquatic and terrestrial prey. Water plants also extend the active season for snakes in some climates. Even as fall approaches and temperatures drop, the soil around water features often stays slightly warmer than the surrounding area. The water itself holds heat, and the damp soil insulates better than dry soil. This means snakes can remain active longer near these features, and in mild climates they might not fully enter dormancy at all. Many homeowners love the lush tropical look of large-leafed water plants. They create that oasis feeling, like a miniature jungle. But that jungle includes more than just plants and frogs. Snakes are part of the ecosystem, and once they discover a water feature with good cover and abundant food, they tend to stay. The challenge is that these areas are often left undisturbed. You're not walking through cattails or reaching under elephant ears regularly. These plantings are meant to be viewed from a distance, which means snakes can settle in without any human interference. By the time you realize they're there, they've likely been residents for quite a while. Sixth, fruit trees and berry bushes. This one surprises people because most don't make the connection between fruit production and snakes. But the relationship is clear and direct. Fruit attracts rodents. Rodents attract snakes. It's a simple food chain, and your berry bushes or fruit trees are the foundation of it. Think about what happens when fruit ripens. Apples fall from trees, berries drop from bushes, figs split open on the branches. This fruit doesn't just disappear, it sits on the ground, fermenting and attracting wildlife. Mice and rats are opportunistic feeders. They'll eat fallen fruit eagerly, visiting your fruit trees night after night. Squirrels cache fruit for winter, creating little food stores around your yard. Birds peck at berries and scatter seeds. All this activity draws snakes. They're not interested in the fruit itself, but they're very interested in the animals eating it. Snakes are patient hunters. Once they identify an area where prey congregates, they move in and wait. Your blueberry patch becomes a hunting ground. Your apple tree becomes a stakeout location. Fruit-bearing plants also tend to create additional habitat benefits for snakes. Berry bushes like raspberries and blackberries grow in thorny, tangled thickets that are difficult for humans to navigate but perfect for snakes to hide in. Fruit trees develop shaded canopies that keep the ground beneath cool and protected. The combination of food availability and good shelter makes these areas extremely attractive. The problem intensifies if you're not maintaining these plants properly. Fruit that's allowed to rot on the ground creates a persistent attractant. Overgrown berry bushes that haven't been pruned become impenetrable tangles. Fallen branches and pruning debris left in piles create additional hiding spots. Before you know it, your productive fruit garden has become prime snake habitat. You don't necessarily need to remove all fruit-producing plants, but you need to manage them carefully. Harvest fruit promptly. Clean up anything that falls, keep bushes pruned and open, remove ground-level debris, and maintain visibility around the base of trees. These practices reduce rodent activity, which in turn makes the area less attractive to snakes. 7th, hostas, the most underestimated snake plant in American gardens. If there's one plant that appears in almost every discussion about unexpected snake encounters, it's hostas. They're incredibly popular, easy to grow, beautiful in shaded areas, and they come in hundreds of varieties. Drive through any suburban neighborhood and you'll see them everywhere, lining walkways, filling shaded beds, planted around trees, clustered near foundations. But hostas have a dark side that most gardeners don't consider. Their growth habit is perfectly designed to attract snakes. The leaves emerge in spring and quickly expand into large, overlapping umbrellas. By early summer, a mature hosta creates a dense canopy that completely blocks sunlight from reaching the ground. Underneath, it's dim, cool, and consistently moist. This microclimate is exactly what snakes seek out. The large leaves act like a roof, protecting the ground from direct sun and wind. After a rain or morning watering, moisture collects on the leaves and drips down to the base. The soil stays damp for extended periods. Temperature fluctuations are minimal. For a snake, sliding under a hosta is like stepping into climate-controlled housing. Hostas also attract prey. Slugs love hostas and congregate under the leaves in large numbers. These slugs attract small predators like shrews and mice. The entire ecosystem develops in the hidden space beneath the foliage. And where there's prey, snakes follow. What makes hostas particularly problematic is their popularity and placement. They're often planted in large groupings, creating extensive areas of ground-level coverage. They're frequently placed right next to houses, along foundations where they're rarely disturbed. They fill entire beds under mature trees where other plants struggle. These locations are already somewhat isolated and quiet, and adding hostas makes them even more attractive to snakes. The moment of discovery is often jarring. You decide to divide your hostas after several years of growth. You reach down to lift the plant, inserting your hands into the cool space beneath the leaves, and you feel something move. Or you're pulling weeds from a hosta bed, and you disturb something you didn't know was there. The snake was perfectly hidden, perfectly comfortable, and had probably been living there for weeks or months. Mature hosta clumps, especially the large-leafed varieties, can shelter surprisingly large snakes. The plants grow big enough to conceal snakes that are 2, 3, even 4 feet long. And because hostas are perennials that come back year after year, snakes can return to the same plants season after season, treating them as reliable seasonal housing. The alternative isn't to give up on shade gardening entirely. There are plenty of plants that don't create the same problem. Daylilies have an open growth habit with minimal ground coverage. Coral bells form neat clumps with good air circulation. Coneflowers and black-eyed Susans dry out quickly after rain. These plants provide beauty without creating the hidden, protected environment that makes snakes feel at home. Understanding these 7 plant categories gives you real power. You can still have a beautiful, lush garden. You can still grow in shaded areas and create privacy screens. But you can do it in ways that don't inadvertently roll out the welcome mat for snakes. It comes down to choices. Choosing plants with open structure instead of dense coverage, maintaining visibility at ground level, managing moisture and debris, and understanding that every element in your garden sends signals to wildlife. Make informed choices and you create a space that's beautiful for you without being irresistible to snakes.